Tanisha Hardy, an Air Quality Planner with HGAC, and I'm going to be hosting today's Clean Vehicles Program webinar. This is an outline for today's discussion. I'm going to give some program background and also how to share how you can be eligible for our program. And then I'm going to turn over to our guest speaker today, Bill Winters with Freedom CNG. But before we get started, I would like to start with what we like to call the bottom line on top. So the question you may be asking is, why should your organization participate in the Clean Vehicles Program? Ultimately, it's money saved. Clean Vehicles funding actually helps to offset some of the expenses with new equipment purchases. With newer, cleaner burning equipment, usually translates to money saved in fuel and maintenance expenses as well. In addition to that, this is an air quality program, so it's focused on reduction of harmful air pollutants, namely nitrogen oxides. And lastly but not least, you will be recognized as an industry leader. We have opportunities to have our participants be featured on our website, and then we also could feature them in our newsletters and actually extend speaking invites to our various engagements. And you're also making the note to show yourself as an industry leader by doing something to help address the Houston air quality condition. There is absolutely no risk to submitting an application. It functions much like an open solicitation. There is no deadline, and there is no fee associated with applying. There are some minimal obligations to receive some grant funding. It comes in the form of submission of simple quarterly reports, where you report your mileage and your maintenance and your fuel usages for the quarter. You hope to achieve projected usages, and so you're going to be committed to some minimum vehicle miles traveled for the equipment and also some fuel output for the infrastructure. And then we also ask that you host occasional site and audit visits. And we also ask that you coordinate with us on any accidents or ownership transfers as it relates to the equipment. Just a little bit of background for you. The Clean Vehicles Program has been around since the mid-90s and is supported mostly by federal funding. Again, the primary goal is to reduce air pollution, specifically nitrogen oxides, which we like to call NOx. Past focus has been historically on-road heavy-duty vehicles, but we also fund light-duty vehicles and also refueling infrastructure. The most common funding sources come in the form of HDC funds, which are funds that are administered through the Federal Highway Administration. And then we also have state and or federal supplemental environmental project funds, which we call SEP funds, that we'll also use as well. We at times do receive other funding types in the form of donations, or we also will take advantage of some DERA solicitations or some Clean Cities funding, but those are kind of intermittent. Specifically, the HDC and the SEP funds are mainly our funding source for the program. Now, how can you be eligible? There's some basic criteria that applies to all the projects regardless of how they are funded. It's very important that any equipment being funded under our program is not recently being funded under another state funded program or federal funded program. You can't double count the emission reduction, so if that is the case, we would have to wait till you are fully committed and have fulfilled your contractual obligations under that grant effort before you can participate in this one. We also ask that you have some best practice policies in place, either at the time of application, but we would like to have you actually be doing those things beforehand if possible. So we ask that you have a drug alcohol policy in place. We also ask that you have operating procedures or a training manual for anyone that's going to be operating the equipment. And we also like to see insurance and liability protection for the equipment that we do fund. Here is a geographical representation of the Houston-Galveston metropolitan region. Most of our projects have to be based in this region. So for infrastructure, they must be located in 8-county non-attainment area, which is highlighted in the soft purple color. For any vehicles that are funded through our program, they can be based in the greater 13-county region, but they must operate a percentage of their time within the 8-county non-attainment area to be eligible. Now, our program, it could be a vehicle-based project or it can be an infrastructure-based project. For our vehicles, we encourage accelerated turnover. What that translates to is that there must be some useful life in the engine that's inside of that vehicle before you replace it. All replacements must be purchased new. We do not allow you to replace with a used vehicle. And to be eligible, the engine must be rated to the 2010 0.2 grams per brake horsepower hour NOx rating or better. For the lighter duty, we target for Tier 2, then 3 or better. If you would like to entertain the idea of a retrofit or a conversion to natural gas, those conversions or those retrofits must have been verified either through EPA or CARB or alternatively, approved documentation by staff. As it relates to infrastructure, there's two different types of projects that we have under infrastructure projects. They could be the public or the private station. The private, which is called the dedicated refueling, is specific to anchor fleets. That means that you have a baseline anchor fleet that will return to that station, and it's not open to the public. This is a better option for the large, high-use fleet. It's evaluated quantitatively because the emission reductions are based on the engine profiles of your fleet. For a public refueling station, this is a better option for most fleets and or fuel providers. This type of project is evaluated qualitatively, and it's based on how well can you run a business as a fuel station. So we look at accessibility, fuel volume, and the strength of business planning. Again, the public refueling station is open not only to your anchor fleet, but it's also open to the public. So that is a really strong emphasis to push towards having a partial or open access fueling station. You get more bang for your buck in those situations. So how would you like to know if your vehicle is eligible? The easiest way to do it is to just contact a staff representative for guidance. You could also visit our website and use the accelerated deployment calculator to see if your vehicle or if your fleet is eligible for funding. If you would like to know how much your vehicle is eligible for, you would have to submit an application for evaluation. We would ask you some basic information about your baseline fleet, and then we will qualitatively assess it based on the weight of the vehicle, how much is utilized, the year of the engine, the type of fuel that you're proposing to use, and the cost of the proposed technology and the new equipment. Here is our website address. It's www.mysolutionis.com. I strongly encourage you to visit. That's where you will find our accelerated deployment calculator to see if your vehicle is eligible for funding. You can also email us at cleanvehicles.h-gac.com, and then there's also a phone number here if you'd like to talk to someone directly. Again, I just wanted to give a high-level overview of the program today. If you have any questions at this time as it relates to the Clean Vehicles program, please submit them right now before I turn over to Bill Winters. Okay, well, it appears that we don't have any questions as it relates to the program. So with that being said, I would like to now introduce our guest speaker for the day. This is Mr. William Winters, who we mostly call Bill. He is the president of Freedom CNG, and they currently have 2 active projects under the Clean Vehicles program. One of the vehicle programs, Freedom CNG converted 2 of their diesel trucks to natural gas. And then under the second infrastructure project, they are constructing a new station in the north part of town, both of which have been supported and funded with HGAC funding. So at this time, I would like to turn it over to Bill, and we'll also have some opportunity for questions at the end of his presentation.
Hi, I appreciate the opportunity of being here this morning. My name is Bill Winters. I'm with Freedom CNG. I've been active in the Houston business community since 1985. We got started in the waste business in 1985, solid waste collection and disposal and recycling business. and primarily in southeast Texas. And we built a business and ended up selling it to what became Waste Management in 1998. Waste Management didn't want to keep our recycling businesses, so we kept them, and now we're one of the largest wood recycling companies in the state of Texas. What we do is we take woody debris from people's yards and from storm debris and things like that, and we create products out of it. We make, I like to tell people, we take big sticks and we make little sticks out of them. And we make beneficial use products that would, you know, the material would normally go to the landfill, but we make beneficial use products which are then used back in the community in the form of mulch, colored mulches, soil amendments, and boiler fuel. So our base business is called the Novus Wood Group, and in 1998, in 2008, the price of diesel fuel spiked over $4 a gallon, and we operate 17 vehicles in our base business, all different classes and sizes, but when diesel fuel went over $4, we were struggling to make money. We were struggling to increase our diesel surcharges fast enough. We couldn't. You can see this, the next slide that we're looking at, the American Trucking Association essentially shows a correlation between the price of diesel fuel and trucking company failures. And because our business is based, 30% of our cost is trucking, diesel fuel is a big number. In fact, it's such a big number, the cost of our diesel went over our payroll in 2008 and became the #1 expense that we had in our business. So I immediately started looking at substitutions for diesel. What could we do? What could we find that would do the job for our particular business? We started out looking at purely our particular business. And because we have various classes of vehicles, we have pickup trucks all the way up to Class 8 tractor trailers, and we looked at what kind of fuel would perform the job that would not have the volatility associated with it, and that would be a cleaner burning fuel because we're operating in a non-attainment area in the city of Houston. So in 2008, I began looking at it. It took me 18 to 24 months to really look into it, but we came to the conclusion that natural gas was really the only substitute fuel that would do what we needed it to do for our particular business. So the next slide, you can see Freedom CNG site #1. The yellow area is our base business where we take in woody debris and process it into products. It's about 30 acres. And we wanted to look at what we could do from a substitute fuel standpoint at our location so that we could be right there and babysit it and learn the business because it's a steep learning curve. And so we were fortunate to have natural gas. If you look in this kind of the lower left-hand side of the slide, there's Pizzatola Street, and there's a high-pressure center point gas line that comes in underneath the street and enters into our property. It's a 180-pound gas line, and that's considered high pressure. And so we were fortunate to have that infrastructure. CenterPoint also provided us with 3-phase power to provide power to the compressors and the dryers and the dispensers. So we decided we would carve out a couple of acres down on the lower left-hand side, so that we would have frontage on Beltway 8 frontage road, and this is on the southeast side of town, across from Ellington, across from the city of Houston Aviation. And so that little blue area is about 2 acres, and what you can see from this elevation is phase 1 of 3 phases for the site. We have 2 acres that we can develop as the business develops over time. So again, we were fortunate to have gas, power, and we had high truck traffic and high traffic count on the Beltway tollway right there. So what's unique about this particular site is we have the waste management transfer station and the waste court landfill and our own operation right there on the property. Waste management has trash trucks coming in and out of the facility every day, as well as waste court, literally hundreds of vehicles, plus our own vehicles, plus our own customers' vehicles. The site has 106,000 daily traffic count, about 5,200 three-axle truck count, which is pretty significant. The station capacity, we built the station capacity phase 1 to handle 100 trucks a day, or about 4,000 gallons a day. It can do about 400 gallons per hour peak capacity, which means it can produce 400 gallons equivalent of natural gas fuel, including the tankage that we have on site. The compressors will produce about 360 gallons an hour capacity. So what that means in layman's terms is we can fuel 10 40-gallon trucks an hour at that location. We have approximately 1,000 fleet vehicles within 5 miles of the site, which is pretty significant. It's truck friendly, and what we mean by that is there's wide turning radiuses, 8-inch concrete. We can get a tractor trailer in there, and a lot of the other sites around town are really not truck friendly. And so we said, you know, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this right, and we're focused on vocational fleets, primarily local vocational fleets, so we have to give them enough paving. It's a fast fill site, which means we can fill a truck, depending upon the size of the tank, in 5 to 8 minutes. Some of the larger tankage takes up to 10 or 12 minutes. It's 24-hour lit, and it has surveillance. It's expandable to 2 acres. The next few slides are some construction slides, basically. We had to build a road and donate it to the city of Houston so that we could have a hard corner. And so we built a concrete road and conveyed it to the city of Houston. Part of the difficulty in developing this site was getting a permit, a building permit from the city of Houston. They're not terribly up to speed on natural gas, or weren't at the time, because there's not many stations in the area. And so we were learning with them through the process on what was required. It's very important to get the fire marshal involved from the beginning. And once we got him comfortable with what we were doing and he understood what we were doing, then things moved more quickly. It took us about 6 months to get a building permit, but the construction of the site really doesn't take much time. It took us about 60 to 80 days to build the site start to finish. That's a finished product. It's very simple. It's 250 horsepower, one 250 horsepower compressor with about 80 gallons equivalent standard cubic feet of water volume in storage, which is about 2 trucks of storage. One dispenser with a low flow hose and also a high flow hose. Now the low flow hose is still pretty fast, and I use it for my pickup truck, and I can fill 21 gallons in about 4 minutes. So the low flow hose is still pretty fast, but the transit nozzle that we use for the garbage trucks fills the 80 to 100 gallon capacity very quickly. We used American equipment. We used a packager out of Wisconsin called Angie. They've been in business for years and years. They've done lots of compression jobs. There's hundreds of service companies in the Houston area that can do service on Angie equipment. The gas comes in over on the right-hand side of the slide underneath the road, and you can't really see it, but there's a dryer behind the compressor, which is that box, a boxy-looking thing that says Angie on it. There's a dryer behind it. So the gas comes through the meter, through the dryer, through the compressor, and then into the tanks. And then the tanks goes through a priority panel into the tanks and then underground over to the dispenser. Our office is across the street, and we have cameras, and we can monitor this from really anywhere, any location. And So we're able to babysit the site and to really learn the business, because there's a pretty steep learning curve in this whole process. That's what it looks like. Next slide is what it looks like from the main lanes of Beltway 8. We don't have a sign out there that says, $2.39 a gallon, because we really didn't want people pulling off the highway, having an accident trying to get to $2.39 a gallon when they get over there and realize it's natural gas, it's not gasoline or diesel. We're really focused on fleets and targeting the fleet market, and so we haven't put a sign out there. But if you have a fleet of one, we'd like to talk to you. Next slide is the slide at night. It's lit up well. It's not dangerous to go and fill at night. My wife could do it, and so it's a user-friendly site. This is our first vehicle that we bought with the help of a HGAC federal air grant. It's a Freightliner with a Cummins Westport 9-liter motor in it. It's dedicated natural gas. It's got two 40-gallon saddle tanks on the side, so it has 80-gallon capacity, and it has about a 400-mile range. Plenty of power, clean, quiet. The driver loves it. We've had no problems with it. It cost about $200,000, and we got a $96,000 grant from HGAC. So we've got approximately 50% of the purchase price from HGAC. The actual savings over 1 year, we were operational in August of last year. Actual savings over 1 year was $15,200 for this particular truck. So we bought a $200,000 truck. We got almost a 50% grant from HGAC, and we're saving $15,200 a year on fuel alone. The driver likes it. He doesn't smell like diesel fuel when he gets home. He said, "My wife doesn't make me take off all my clothes when I get to the house before I go inside." And so he's very happy with it. It has plenty of power, plenty of torque, and we carry pretty heavy products. We carry soils and soil mixes and mulches and boiler fuel in this type of truck. The next slide is our second truck, which is an identical vehicle, only it's set up a little bit differently. It's set up like a roll-off truck because we haul boxes of wood, clean wood, back to ourselves. We collect boxes of clean wood from customers. It's set up almost identically with two 40-gallon saddle tanks. It was upfitted by Agility, and they do a great job. Again, it's a Freightliner, but you can buy Peterbilt, you can buy Kenworth, you can buy other products out there. Other OEMs can put Cummins Westport motor in their chassis. This particular truck cost $220,000, and we received about a $160,000 grant from HGAC. I'm guessing here, but our total actual cost for both trucks was $470,000. We received grants from HGAC totaling $261,000, or 56% of the purchase price. And again, we're saving $15,200 a year approximately per vehicle. So that's how it turned out from our standpoint. We didn't know how it was going to turn out. HGAC did a great job in terms of setting expectations on when the money would be funded. We had to buy the truck up front, get it outfitted, get it delivered, and then the grant funding came in to pay off or to reduce our purchase price in the vehicle. The next slide is City of Pasadena has a demo truck for garbage that they're using. You can see the tanks on top. Lots of different classes of vehicles can use CNG effectively. The next slide is a concrete truck with a 9-liter Cummins Westport motor in it. You can see the tankage on the side. The next slide is our friend and neighbor Sprint Waste. They own 5 CNG waste collection vehicles. They're Freightliners. They're identical to the ones that the two white trucks that we purchased, and they're set up identically. They have two 40-gallon saddle tanks, and they're saving quite a bit of money with their vehicles as well. They run more miles than we do, and so they're actually saving more money. The next slide is a 12-liter Cummins Westport tractor in a Kenworth. It's the larger motor. It's a 400 horsepower motor, and I think I said earlier we run Class 8 tractor trailers over the road. We haul wood fuel into East Texas and backhaul mulches and barks and sawdust and things like that, different wood fibers that are pretty heavy. And so we need something more than a 9-liter. We need more than 320 horsepower. And so we recently demoed this 12-liter, which has recently come out from Cummins Westport. We think it's going to be a real game changer in the market. We've ordered 2 tractors through Kenworth with 12 liters, and we're working with H-GAC on grant funding for those as well. The next slides show some other smaller classes of vehicles. Pickup trucks, we have 3/4 ton and half-ton pickup trucks that we run. They have about a 700-mile range, 300 miles on natural gas and 400 miles on gasoline. So when you're out in the field and you can't get natural gas because there's no infrastructure nearby, you can run on gasoline and get yourself back to where you can find natural gas fueling infrastructure. They were upfitted by Parkway Chevrolet. They've done a great job in terms of providing upfitting in the market. They've done over 800 vehicles for a lot of the oilfield service industries, and we've been very happy with their equipment. You can see AT&T uses our fueling station on the lower left-hand side. They come in daily. We've got CenterPoint Energy, has a couple of vehicles that they're using on our side of town, on the lower right-hand side. And that's a Dodge vehicle, and that's a factory direct piece of equipment. It's not upfitted. It's actually comes from the factory with CNG tankage and gasoline capability. So we were open about a week in August, and I was at the office about 7 o'clock, and this man showed up in a black Tahoe and was driving around our facility, went out driving around in the grass, and I thought that was kind of odd, so I walked out there and tried to find out who he was, and he rolled down his window, and he said, "My name's Rick Roberts. I'm the general manager of Houston Distributing Company." He says, "Is this your natural gas fueling station?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Can I come in and talk to you about natural gas?" I said, "Sure." 2 hours later, he said, "Would you come out to our office in the morning and talk to our ownership about building a compressed natural gas fueling station for us on the northwest side at 249 at Beltway 8. I said, "Sure." So the next morning we went out, and within a couple of weeks we had an agreement. And Houston Distributing is a large Miller Coors beer distributorship in the Houston area. They own and operate 310 vehicles at their location here at 249 and Beltway 8. So they leased us a 3-acre tract of land. You can see the blue site down there, and we just happen to have a high-pressure pipeline corridor on the south side of that property, and it has 3 large high-pressure gas pipelines in the corridor. And so we negotiated with several of them and came to an agreement with one of them through CenterPoint Energy to provide a tap, a meter, and an odorizer for the station. Houston Distributing has leased 28 12-liter tractors with 155-gallon capacity tankage on these vehicles, and their business is to bring beer in from Fort Worth and then to backhaul building tile, flooring tile out of the Port of Houston back into the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So they're going to make loops from Fort Worth to Houston and back, and they have outfitted their vehicles to provide enough tankage so that they can do that with some spare in terms of their the range for their trucks. They intend to convert the balance of the fleet over time as it makes sense for whatever vehicles that they have in terms of delivering, beer vans, that type of equipment. You can see CEMEX is nearby as well, and they have an interest in utilizing natural gas in their fleet as well. So you can see that one station leads to another, and we anticipate when we get the HDC site up and operating and have our grand opening, we anticipate other sites to follow. The next slide is the actual plan for the site. It's 2 phases. The first phase is 3 dispensers with 6 lanes, and with the second phase being an additional 3 dispensers, which would give us 12 lanes. They'll be open to the public as well, and it's be 24 hours operational. And the HGAC is provided, we're under contract with HGAC to provide us with a federal air grant, CMAQ money, for $893,000. The total cost of this site, including working capital, is about $2.4 million. So you can see it's a significant grant. The way it works is you have to build the site and pay the vendors, and then you're reimbursed for the contract amount at that point. The site's under construction. We have a building permit as of last week. You can see we cleared the site here, and we know somebody who's in the wood business, so we were able to take care of that woody debris and recycle it and make a beneficial use product out of it. You can see in the back the beer delivery vans. Most of those are 9-liter trucks, and they are demonstrating 9-liter CNG vehicles at this point, and hope to be leasing some additional 9 liters in the near future as we get open. This is a panoramic view of the site. It's a big location. It's 3 acres, so we have plenty of room, and it will be, to accommodate large tractor-trailer type vehicles and smaller vehicles as well. This is a 9-liter beer van delivery vehicle, compressed natural gas. It's a Peterbilt with Cummins Westport 9-liter in it. So the unique attributes of this site is that they're agreeing to purchase 700,000 gallons a year from us for 7.25 years, which is a lot of fuel. They have the opportunity to buy up to 1 million gallons a year from us. They are like the idea so much, they wanted to become a partner, and so we sold them a 20% interest in the facility. So they're not only our host fleet, they're our partner as well. They really believe in this, and they believe that the beverage industry will follow suit, as they lead the way in the Houston market. They own, like I said earlier, 310 vehicles, and they want to convert as many as is economically viable to do so. We have an operating gas pressure at the site of 600 pounds. Remember, our first site had 180 pounds. Well, this site has 600 pounds, which will allow us to be very competitive. The higher the gas pressure, the lower your operating costs and maintenance costs are associated with your equipment. So long-term, we'll be more competitive at this site because of high pressure on the gas line. The site is over almost 4 times the throughput capacity of our first site. It's 1,528 gallons per hour peak operating capacity, and HDC will be filling about 2,300 gallons a day over a 24-hour period. And so you can see we have quite a bit of excess capacity in the operating capacity of the site. The station can fill 13 trucks an hour to 120 gallons per truck. Again, everybody has different tankage sizes, so the fill time has to do with how large your tanks are. There's approximately 440 heavy-duty fleet vehicles within 5 miles of the site that are 2005 year model or older. This is TxDOT data, and we're targeting the older, dirtier fleets because they obviously receive higher grant funding when they replace those vehicles with cleaner burning vehicles like natural gas vehicles. It's truck friendly, 24-hour lighted operation and surveillance is expandable to 3 acres, as I said earlier. It'll have 2 compressors and a dryer, so that if one of the compressors goes down, we'll still be able to fill. In the market, we're looking at 97% of all trucking companies operate less than 20 vehicles. And if you operate less than 20 vehicles, you really, in general, are not going to have the capital to change out your fleets for clean burning vehicles, plus put in infrastructure. And so we're targeting those companies really that aren't going to put in their own infrastructure. And we're looking to partner with them as we've done with these other businesses. 71% of all trucks utilize third-party fueling stations. And in the Houston market, in the 8-county non-attainment area, there's 100,000 short-haul diesel vehicles, including transit buses. And that's a huge opportunity. And if you have, let's just say you have 200 vehicles per station to be at capacity, that's 500 fueling stations. We have 6 fueling stations in the 8-county area at this point that we're aware of that are operational. So that's 500 stations that could be, if you were to convert all 100,000 short-haul diesel vehicles, which won't happen, obviously. Natural gas is a substitute. It's not a replacement. So in the port alone, there's 21,500 diesel trucks providing service to the Port of Houston, which is 20% of all the short-haul diesel vehicles in the 8-county area. So you can see they're concentrated in that southeast quadrant, of town. So it's a huge opportunity for us. It's a huge opportunity to reduce NOx emissions in this area. And if you were to replace all 100,000 vehicles over a 10-year period with natural gas vehicles, you would reduce NOx in the area by about 50,000 tons a year. That's 50,000 tons a year if you replace all those with natural gas vehicles, which would be a huge air quality improvement for our area. People say, why are you in this business? And the reason I'm in this business is, A, I do not want to be put out of business by some action that's going on in the Middle East that has nothing to do with what we do here in the U.S. And, we have a problem because of imported oil. And so using local, clean burning natural gas that's produced right here in Texas produces jobs in Texas, and it cleans up our air, which is a huge dividend to the community, and it's cheaper, and it works for our application, and it works for lots of applications in this market. I had the opportunity to speak to the former president of Shell Oil, and he told me, I asked him a question, I said, what's going to happen to diesel pricing? He said, diesel is going to be high, and it's going to go higher. And I asked him why, and he said, because, and then if you look at this Valero exhibit right here, which came out in September of this year, it shows where the oil companies make their money. They make their money in diesel, not in gasoline. And if you noticed over the last few weeks, the price of gasoline has dropped below $3, but the price of diesel has remained high. It's around $3.60 to $3.70 a gallon. And why is that? Because they're making all their money on diesel fuel. It's an export product, and there's a lot more refining capacity in gasoline than there is in diesel. And so diesel is going to remain high, and when the economy returns, both in the U.S. and worldwide, I think we're going to see even higher prices. And I think in Houston we need to be prepared for that. And if we can use local natural gas produced here, produce Texas jobs, and clean up the air all at the same time, I'm not sure why we wouldn't want to do this on a larger scale. So what do we need for success? We need leadership, and we need courage, and we need fleets to adopt CNG. We need collaboration between everybody involved in the Houston market. And we don't need to duplicate effort. We need to work together to do this together, because I buy fuel at Clean Energy location. I bought fuel this morning at an Apache location. It's not about competition. It's about creating infrastructure so that we can clean up our air by introducing CNG on a large-scale basis in the Houston metro area. We want to work with the OEMs so that they can be confident that they can produce cars that run on CNG. They do it in other countries. There's no reason why they can't do it here if the demand is here. And they say, well, it's because we don't have the fueling stations, the chicken and the egg thing. Well, the infrastructure is coming. It's coming reasonably rapidly, and the price of diesel is stubbornly high. Even in a reasonably poor economy in the U.S. today, Texas is experiencing a very good economy, but diesel remains stubbornly high. And so what we're trying to do is seed the market with fueling stations. And I said, we were open a week when somebody showed up at our location and wanted to build another site. So seeding the market works. We know that it works. And it produces CNG fleet adoption. All fleets need to adopt CNG is to have the confidence that they can get fuel around town, and that's what we're trying to provide. You can see the current sites in the Houston area. Now, these are sites that we know of. There may be other sites that are planned that we don't know of. You can see our 2 sites in the blue. Clean Energy has their 3 sites in the green. Love's has announced 2 locations at 2 truck stops. CNG has announced 2 locations. Frito-Lay has a site down in Rosenberg. Apache has a site right on Post Oak. Swift has a very large site, which is opening tomorrow. It's a 10-lane, 5-dispenser facility on Mesa Road, and they're serving Swift and Central Freight vehicles, and that's a very nice facility put together by Questar. And this is just a cool picture. I put it in there just because I like it. And we were at the office one day, and they were having an air show over Ellington, and we took pictures of Blue Angels flying over Freedom CNG. So we call them fighters over Freedom CNG. So I appreciate it, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. We'd be willing to work with anybody, cities, governments, individuals, private fleets, public fleets. We're very transparent. We'll tell you what works. We won't exaggerate the savings, and we'll tell you what our experience has been and what the facts are. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Bill. I really appreciate you sharing your firsthand experiences as it relates to partnering with not only us as an agency, but also on the project level as well. So hopefully that has enticed our participants today to think a little bit more about clean vehicles and maybe the thought of entertaining an application. So with that being said, I will get back to our contact page, so you can give us a call or you can email us. We'd be happy. We have staff available to talk to you. Also another note, we'll be posting this presentation today on our Clean Vehicles website from here on out. And that website can be found, again, at www.mysolutionis.com. Again, there's our phone number and our email address. If you want to drop us a note, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about some of your thoughts and brainstorm with you and see if we can get you entered into the program. With that being said, if there are any questions at this time, we'd be happy to answer them. Okay, I just received a question asking if there is a way to get a copy of this presentation so I can show it to some of my clients. The answer is yes. This presentation, along with the audio, will be posted to the Clean Vehicles website, which again is located at www.mysolutionis.com. So in a couple of days, expect to find it there. Okay, the second question came in, does HGAC have any funding available for retrofitting existing fleets? The answer to that question is yes, retrofits and conversions are eligible for funding under our program. I would encourage that you get in contact with the project specialist to talk with you in more detail about what your plans or what your ideas are. Most importantly, we would like the conversion or the retrofit to be verified through either EPA or California Air Resources Board. So feel free to give us a call, and we'll be happy to talk to you a little bit more in depth about that. Okay, it looks like that there aren't any more questions. Again, I appreciate your participation in today's webinar. I am Tunisia Hardy. It has been a pleasure speaking to you all today, and I look forward to talking to you again at the next webinar.